the name of God, most merciful and compassionate. We'll finish, hopefully, explaining this khutbah or sermon next week. We've come to the point where Imam starts speaking about how man or al-insan was created. ومنها في صفة خلق الإنسان, about the quality or how man or human beings were created. أم هذا الذي أنشأه في ظلمات الأرحام, or look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how he created man in the darkness or in the dark wombs. Dhulumat is the plural of dhulma. In Arabic, dhulma means darkness. Arham is the plural of rahim. Rahim in English is called uterus or womb. So the fetus develops and grows in the womb. In the dark womb, في ظلمات الأرحام. Why in the dark wombs? Because the womb, there is no light in the womb. That is why the womb is a place where the gamete, or whatever you may call it, will develop. وشفغ الأستار, and in the curtains of layers, in the in a multi-layered structure. Shughuf is the plural of shaghaf. Shaghaf here means layer, or the sheath of a sword. The sheath of a sword is called shaghaf. Like sahab. Sahab, the plural of sahab is sohob. Therefore, shughuf is the plural of shaghaf. Shaghaf is cover, layer, and so on. Nutfatun dahagha, it means that man, who was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the dark wombs and in the curtains, or in a multi-layered structure, was primarily a semen. Nutfatan dahagha, a semen which poured strongly or quickly. Nutfa means semen. Dahagh in English can be translated as a brimful. So janin, so the fetus or the embryo develops in the womb, and in the womb and mashima, in the womb. At the same time, here, what is meant by nutfatun dahagha, as I said, is that the semen is poured, very strongly here at nutfatun dahagha. Wa alaghatan mihagha, and then the semen develops into a clot. Alagha means clot. Mihagha, a shapeless clot, with no shape, because the embryo in its early stage has no shape. وَجَنِينًا وَرَاضِعًا, the clot develops into an embryo, and then the embryo develops into a suckling baby. These are the consecutive stages, right? We develop one after another. وَوَلِيدًا وَيَافِعًا, stage by stage. Walidan, a child, right? Then there appears a child. After that, yafi'an, an adult child, an adult boy or girl. ثُمَّ مَنَعُهُ قَلْبًا حَافِظًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed each of us with an aql. Heart here means aql. Hafizan means an aql which retains, which keeps. An intellect with a memory. You know that each of us have a memory. Memory is one of the internal faculties, memory, where all the mental images are retained or stored. For example, the images of colors, tastes, shapes, and other things. So we can recollect, we can summon each of the mental images which are all stored in our own memories. ثُمَّ مَنَعَهُ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endowed man with a heart or intellect having its own internal faculties, one of which is the faculty or the power of retention. Retention means keeping, retaining. In English, the noun of retain is retention. Therefore, memory is the retentive faculty. Al-Ghubbatul Hafidha. Retentive is the adjective of retention. Retain, retention, retentive. وَلِسَانًا لَافِزًا. Imam, in this section of the khutbah, is explaining the various stages of development, beginning from semen, from the seminal stage, which is followed by the clot, by the shapeless clot. The shapeless clot is developed by the embryo or the fetus. The embryo is followed by the suckling baby. The suckling baby develops into a boy or girl, and the boy or the boy girl develops into an adult. وَلِسَانًا لَافِظًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endowed us with the power of speech. Speech. We speak. لِيَفْحَمَ مُؤْتَبِرًا. لِيَفْحَمَ مُؤْتَبِرًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a lisan. We speak. Of course, speaking means that we can understand. Animals cannot speak, but human beings speak. Speaking is associated with understanding and intellect or aql. لِيَفْحَمَ مُؤْتَبِرًا, so that we may understand, so that human beings can understand. مُؤْتَبِرًا, this is the main point. Mu'tabar, by taking lessons. By taking lessons from what is seen, for example. Mu'tabiran. In order to avoid doing vile or wicked or evil things. Mu'tabiran. وَيُغَسِّرَ مُزْدَجِرًا. وَيُغَسِّرَ مُزْدَجِرًا means in order to avoid doing anything evil because of having intellect. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endowed us with the power of speaking in order to understand by taking lessons. and in order to avoid doing anything prohibited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. حتى إذا غام اعتداله, until we achieve the stage of an average structure, until we stage the point where we stand erect or straight. I'tidal means an average structure. واستوى مثاله. واستوى مثاله. Here I mean that حتى إذا غام اعتداله, until we achieve the stage, until we reach the stage where we have internal and external faculties, sight, seeing, the powers of seeing, touching, smelling, hearing, tasting, and the faculties or powers of imagination, retention or hafiza, reasoning or aql, imagination, and so on. غام حتى إذا غام اعتداله. واستوى مثاله. واستوى مثاله, it means that we'll reach finally a stage which is perfect and complete, until we will achieve the final stage. So, the creation of man is a sort of creation which passes through different gradual stages, one after another. One after another. In terms of physical and intellectual development. نفر مستكبرا. نفر مستكبرا means then man starts disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of pride or arrogance. نفر مستكبرا. Runs away from God, flees from obeying God and His rulings because of arrogance. Because of arrogance, out of arrogance or pride. وَخَبَتَ سَاتِرًا, and most of the time he gets confused. He cannot tell right from right. Right. خَبَتَ صَادِرًا, and most of the time he gets confused, perplexed, and embarks on doing or committing sins. مَاطِعًا فِي غَرْبِ حَوَاهُ كَادِحًا سَعْيًا لِدُنْيَاهُ. مَاطِعًا, he does or she does, he does his best in order to fulfill his passions, his carnal desires. Gharb here does not mean west. Here gharb means a backup. A backup. I mean that he tries to fulfill his desires in backfulls as much as possible. As much as possible. قادعا سعيا لدنياه. And he strives or struggles for his world, for his worldly wishes. في اللذات تربه, in order to enjoy himself as much as possible, in order to have as much fun and joy as possible. وبدوات أربه, and in order to have his joys, pleasures, and delights fulfilled, satisfied, and gratified to the greatest extent possible. This is the start or beginning of the critical situation of man after his physical development. لا يحتسب رذيته, by ignoring the calamities, disasters, or fate which he will encounter just at death, by ignoring the agony of death, without thinking of his or her future, without thinking what he or she will face up just at death. وَلَا يَخْشَعُ تَقِيَّةً, he does not submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does not feel humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without fearing Him. لا يخشى تقية فمات في فتنته غريرا. فمات, he or she will die while being proud, while being deceived by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By being deluded by the dunya, the world, and while being proud. وَآشَ فِي هَوَّتِهِ يَسِيرًا. وَآشَ فِي هَوَّتِهِ يَسِيرًا, and he lived while being deviant, while committing sins during his short span of life. It means that in order to repent, in order to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to compensate for the sins or for anything wrong as done by him or her, he just spent his life ignoring and being drowned or immersed in the world. لم يفد أبدا, he did not spend or use the time left in order to make up for what was missed by him or her. وَلَمْ يَغْزِ مُفْتَرِزًا, without having performed the religious obligations, without having made up for the missed fara'id or religious obligations. As regards prayer or salah and other wajibat or religious obligatory acts. وَلَمْ يَغْذِ مُفْتَرِزًا. دهمته فجاءات المنية في قبر جماهه وسنن مراحه. The sentences are very beautiful. دهمته, death descends upon him. Suddenly he is seized or overtaken by death. في قبر جماهه, while he was immersed in his pleasures, while being disobedient, refractory, or recalcitrant. وَسَنَنِ مَرَائِهِ, while following his way of taking pleasure. فَظَلَّ صَادِرًا وَبَاتَ سَاهِرًا. While being perplexed, confused during the day and wakeful during the night. It means that It means that during the day he was perplexed and confused, and at night in pain. In pain. في غمرات الآلام وتوارغ الأوجاع والأسقام. This is when one gets old. This is when one gets old. When old age comes, we will start declining. We will start declining. We will be declining. We will be weaker and weaker. Even our internal faculties will start becoming weaker and weaker. Hearing, seeing, the power of intellection, and so on. And we will be afflicted with different kinds of diseases and so on. بين أخ شقيق, and we will be laid in bed, we will fall ill, and we will be laid in bed while being surrounded أخ شقيق by our full brothers, ووالد شفيق, and our kind parents, father or mother, وداعية بالويل جزعا, one's wife, for example, will start crying. ولادمة للصدر غلغا, while beating her chest out of worry. والمرء في سكرة ملهية, while the dying person is afflicted with the agony of death. Agony of death. وأنه موجع. وأنه موجع means that he is so ill or so afflicted or overcome or overtaken by the agony of death that he does not feel the pangs or the pains of the disease caused by the disease. وجذبة مكربة وصلغة متعبة. It is at this time that, for example, he cannot breathe easily. He will be passing, the most violent or most painful moments of his life until he dies. ثم أدرج في أكفانه مبلسا. Then he will be placed in some shrouds. Then he will be shrouded. Kafan. Akfan is the plural of shroud. Kafan. Moblisan, desperately. He will feel desperate. وَجُزِبَ مُنْغَادًا. He will be overtaken submissively. He will not be able to do anything. He will be totally submissive. Salisan, because of his inability. ثم ألغي على الأعواد. Then he will be placed in some pranks. Some long pieces of wood which might be used as a coffin. Raji'a wasabin. Raji'a wasabin means then he will go toward the akhirah, the next world, where sufferings, pains will be followed, will follow. It means that when pains will follow. وَالنَّزْوَ سَغَمْ, and then he will get emaciated, thinner and thinner, leaner and leaner. تحمله حفدته والولدان, حفدة الولدان. Then he will be followed by the grandchildren of his, by the grandchildren and his children, وحشدة الأخوان, and his brothers, relatives, إلى دار غربته, to the abode where he will be left alone. دار غربته, غربة here means being far from one's family. ومنغتئ روضته, where he will not be able to visit his family. He will be isolated and separated from his family when he is buried. حتى إذا انصرف المشيع, to such an extent that those who follow him or who carry his coffin will go, will turn away, will go, will leave him. ورجع المتفجع, and then his relatives, for example, will follow. أُغْعِدَ فِي حُفْرَتِهِ, he will be made to sit, not his body, his ideal body, his posthumous body, by Nakir and Munkar. This is what I explained while lecturing on Al-Barzakh. أُغْعِدَ فِي حُفْرَتِهِ نَجِيًّا لِبَحْتَةِ السُّؤَالِ, he will whisper, he will seek Allah's help. Why? Because he does not know what will happen to him after being questioned by An-Nakir wal-Munkar, by the two angels of death. وَأَثْرَةِ الْإِمْتِحَانِ, and he does not know if he will pass or fail the exam or the interrogation. I will stop at this point, and there will be left one more section which will be explained by me next week. So, what I can do is just to recap that we as human beings will pass through different stages of development, physical and intellectual. Starting from the seminal stage up to the stage where we will become complete or perfect physically. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed us with what we require for achieving perfection, for fulfilling our physical, mental, and intellectual needs, and so on. But what is unfortunate is that most people forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and start disobeying Him. Most of them spend their life while being ignorant or negligent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until when they become old and afflicted with different types of diseases, until they are laid ill in bed while being surrounded by their own relatives, children, grandchildren, and so on. They start crying, they start sympathizing, until death comes and his spirit is separated from his own body. Then he will be carried by being placed on some long lengths of wood and by being shrouded, and will be carried to his grave, where he will be left alone. And then the pains will follow. First, he will be interrogated or questioned by the two angels of death called An-Nakir wal Munkar. And he will stand confused, perplexed, and does not know what will happen, what will occur after being interrogated. He does not know whether he will pass or fail. So, after being questioned, as I had explained before, then a new life will start. It depends on our acts or amal. We don't know what will happen to us, whether we will have a happy life or a wicked life. So barzakh, or the intermediate world, is one of the Islamic beliefs. I mean that we as Muslims should believe in barzakh. And it is a world much bigger, much bigger, much bigger, and much vaster than this world. The barzakh is like, the dunya can be likened to the womb, and the barzakh can be likened to the world. So the relation of barzakh to dunya is like the relation of the womb or rahim to the world. What Imam means by this section is that the Imam is going to warn us against the final fate which we will face sooner or later. As for the kuffar, we can exactly predict what will happen to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left them, they have been left free, and they do whatever they like. But as for us as Muslims, as believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should be very careful. So, throughout the Nahjul Balagha, Imam warns us. Imam gives us insight, wisdom, a deep vision. Imam informs us of our future as definitely and certainly as possible. But man, as a being, is one who usually might ignore or forget. So we always need to be reminded. And Nahjul Balagha is one of the best reminders. We hope that we will make the best of this book, and we try to make the best of this book for our spiritual perfection, for our bright future, inshallah ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.